This program is made possible in part by a grant from the Texas Committee for the Humanities, a state program of the National Endowment for the Humanities, and by the subscribers to KERA Dallas-Fort Worth.
It is the vastness, power, and promise of the land that lies at the heart of the Texas myth. A state whose physical size and resources were legendary long before it became a center of commerce and population, whose endless horizons offered seemingly unlimited opportunities. The struggle with the soil, the vision of empire, the clashes over control and use of the land, all shaped the course of Texas history. You know, my folks came here to this hill country part of Texas more than 150 years ago. It's still part of Mexico, and it's pretty much been our stomping grounds ever since then. They came to get land, and they got it. And they started trying to scratch a living out of it. According to them, it was mighty hard scratching. Today, we're still waging battle with and for the land, transforming it with skyscrapers, airports, highways, and suburbs. This is our new frontier. Our quality of life, the amount of green space in our cities, the survival of our neighborhoods depend on values rooted in myths about the land. You know, myths are our ways of explaining and giving order to our world. They represent the common wisdom and experience of a people, the culture's fears, achievements, and aspirations. This program is about these beliefs and values. Textbooks may recount names, dates, and places, but folk traditions and myths reflect Texas' real heart and soul. Texas covers more area than the largest country in Western Europe. It's an immense territory where the continent's diverse geography, vegetation, and wildlife converge to create a meeting place for different cultures. The Kiowa's hunting grounds once extended across the high plains into the panhandle of Texas. To them, the land was sacred. Through his flute making and morning ritual prayer, Kiowa tribe member Joe Big Bow preserves the myths and traditions of his people.
It is a respectful flute. It's just something that's been handed down by the grace of God, that the Great Spirit that gave them the talents to carry on this way. In my young days, when I was a young man, then my great-grandpa, I followed my great-grandpa's footsteps and tried to tell me things about old Indian culture. It's a blessing in this flute, he always says. It's a wonderful thing, a wonderful gift, talent to Indians. And a wonderful tree, never dies, cedar. Us Indians, we respect this tree because it's a great tree. And this is the way it's gonna blow.
These symbols, found on rock walls in West Texas, were carved and drawn by some of the many Native American cultures who made Texas home. Though the native cultures were diverse, most shared myths which depicted the winds, the rains, the earth, and all living creatures as interrelated. While Indians were not conservationists in the sense that we use the word today, they believed nature was something to live with and respect, not conquer.
In 1528, a new wave of myths and values washed up on the Texas shores with the arrival of the first European, Cabeza de Vaca. It was on the Gulf Coast near Galveston Island, where de Vaca and other members of the ill-fated expedition to claim land for Spain were shipwrecked. It took de Vaca 8 years to cross Texas and reach Mexico. When he arrived, he told wondrous tales he had heard of cities made of gold. De Vaca was Texas' first real estate promoter. He set in motion the great myth of Texas' enormous wealth and potential, and he touched off a land grab.
The Spanish attempted to conquer Texas as they had Mexico, secure in their myth that God intended the natives to be subdued, Christianized, and made useful in Spanish fields and mines.
But the Comanches, Apaches, and others who had a different view of God's will successfully defended their land. By 1821, Spain's empire had declined, and Texas was part of a new, independent Mexico. It became a destination for Americans looking westward for land. These Anglos lived by a set of myths that sanctioned domination rather than stewardship over the land.
My object, the sole and only desire of my ambition since I first saw Texas, was to redeem it from the wilderness, to settle it with intelligent, honorable, and enterprising people.
Stephen F. Austin, who might be called Texas' first major Anglo real estate developer, sold the myth of opportunity and abundance in Texas. He offered huge amounts of land and easy credit.
Come over there, Dolly.
Texas land promoters didn't have much trouble attracting land-hungry settlers, among them Jude Hart's ancestors. Here in the big thicket region of East Texas, Jude Hart still subscribes to the myths that brought his ancestors to Texas.
Get up there. Yeah, come here. Down here gets hot, stubborn, groovy, and want to do what you want to do. Get over there. Get up. I still like doing things the old-fashioned way. There you go. Nowadays, it seems like people want to sit down and keep their Sunday go to church clothes on all the time and never sweat. But I think that's what makes you live so long, sweat a little bit. Get around there. We'll saw them down with a crosscut saw. It ain't too easy, but we don't mind it. We've done it all of our lives. These young boys can't do it nowadays. Then I'll pile them up. I'll bunch of these logs you see here. Tomorrow, the next day, I'll take them to the sawmill. Have them sawed up and made lumber. Come here, Dolly. Get up there. Whoa.
Jude Hart has no use for city life. His pioneer heritage makes him a firm believer in the myth that taming the wilderness and making it productive is the most honest, healthy, and moral human enterprise.
Among the first civilized people, it was from Texas. The Harts was. They come in here from Florida. Ox wagon. Back to business, my old great-great-aunt was born in a wagon and a damn Indian shooting at her. They come in and earn their living the hard way. And a little of it, I guess, rubbed off on me. Proud of it. You know, so far, there ain't none of us in that Huntsville Penitentiary or no other penitentiary. Staying out of these damn cities and halfway tending to your own business.
Do you think things are better now than they were back there? Which when people lived like your folks did out of the earth, off of their own produce by their own hands, or what's your feeling about the way we live now?
Well, my feeling about it, I wished it was back for myself, back like it was. I'm living better now and got $1 or so put up. But used to, and I didn't have one dime nickel. I was happy. Knew I had plenty to eat. And if you run out of something or another, flour before you a cornmeal, go to your neighbors and get what you wanted. Just tell them. They always had it.
The Anglo-American settlers' ability to organize and help each other survive on the frontier also enabled them to mobilize against Mexico for control of the land. Tales from the Texas Revolution quickly took on mythic qualities. The Battle of the Alamo became a legend in its own time and is still a sacred episode to many Texans. Through the modern medium of movies, myths surrounding the Alamo are preserved and embellished. In this 1960 version, Lawrence Harvey plays Colonel William Travis, and John Wayne is Davy Crockett.
Republic. Republic is one of those words that makes me tight in the throat. Same tightness a man gets when his baby takes his first step, or his first baby shaves and makes his first sound like a man.
The battle cry, "Remember the Alamo," rallied not only Texan but American Anglos who wanted to lay claim to the vast territory. While the term manifest destiny didn't come into vogue until the 1840s, the myth that the white race was morally superior and destined to rule the continent played a key role in the Texas Revolution. In a letter requesting aid from the United States, Stephen F. Austin wrote,
A war of extermination is raging in Texas. A war of barbarism and despotic principles waged by the mongrel Spanish Indian and Negro race against civilization and the Anglo-American race.
In 1845, Texas became the only independent nation ever to join the United States. Many Tejanos, that is, Texas Mexicans, viewed their homeland of 300 years as an occupied country. During this period, Anglos viewed the legendary Texas Rangers as heroes who maintained law and order. Tejano folklore portrays them as ruthless protectors of the interest of Anglo ranchers and merchants. Tejano values and view of life in the borderlands have been passed down in Mexican folk songs called corridos. 78-year-old Ignacio Montelongo still sings these corridos to his family in Brownsville. The corrido called Los Sediciosos, the Seditionists, commemorates the last major armed protest of the Tejanos. The seditionists, 40 armed men, raided ranches, derailed trains, and attacked U.S. Army units.
Los rinches mataron muchos, otros los sacrificaban de ciertas maneras y entonces se enojaron y se levantaron en armas en contra de los rinches. Sin tener derechos, por eso pelearon.
The noted University of Texas folklorist Americo Paredes says that Texas Rangers, frustrated at not being able to capture the seditionists, killed hundreds of innocent farm workers. Hundreds more fled to Mexico. To quote Paredes, the results were that more land in South Texas was cleared of Mexicans so that it could be developed by Anglo newcomers in the 1920s.
50 years ago, when I first came out here to East Texas as a graduate student at the University of Texas collecting folklore, I was still able to find people who had actually been bonded slaves and collect their stories.
Here in the piney woods and rolling hills, life was governed by powerful, deep-rooted Southern myths and traditions. By 1860, slaves made up 1/3 or more of the region's population. Their spirituals, work songs, and folk tales helped them to hold on to their values and cultural myths, and provided a means of passing hidden messages of protest and escape.
Steal away home.
Songs such as Steal Away would include directions to freedom, the signposts, Texas trees, hills, and rivers. The poems and stories handed down to Osceola Mays of Dallas reflect the black culture's struggle to survive and its hope for a better day.
Yeah. Rest your hat.
I'll put my hat down right over here.
Yeah, rest your hat and come sit down.
All right, goodness. Well, I'm delighted to get here at long last and get to meet you. I've heard of what a fine poet you are. How many poems you remember?
Oh, yes, I remember those poems, a lot of them. My mother taught me, said, don't you forget them. Said, 'cause when I'm gone, it may do you some good.
They
I
never
said,
were written down?
No, not that I know of. When she loaned me a thing, she said, don't forget it. Remember these things. And she'd go over it again and again. I had to sit down there on the floor and look and let her teach to me.
I wonder if you'd do one of your poems that you learned before you were 10 years old, been carrying in your mind all these years.
Hear me, statesman, I am pleading to defend the black man's cause. Will you give me the protection to outline your laws? Will you lawyers plead my case within your court? I'm not a lawyer, but I'm a citizen. Will you recognize my votes? Ruling power of this nation, will you give me justice now? I prepared your wedding supper, and I dug your father's grave. I did everything you asked me just because I was your slave. I helped to build your great bridges, and I laid your railroad steel. Oh, I've been a mighty power in your great financial wheel. Ruling power of this nation, will you give me justice now? American, American, I call you now. Tomorrow may be late, unless you will return to God. Sad, sad would be your fate. I remember those things. I had some type of brain that make me remember whatever.
Recall things from your childhood.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know that song, Heaven, Heaven, everybody talk about heaven ain't a-going there, heaven. And I remember they'd sing a song, I got shoes, you got shoes, oh God.
Oh, God, children got shoes. And when I get to heaven, gonna put on my shoes, gonna walk all over God, heaven, heaven, heaven. Everybody talk about heaven ain't going there, heaven.
That was a good line. I always love that line.
All those songs meant something. All those songs meant something. When you used to, you used to be in a cotton field years ago. They would sing from one cotton mill to another one, but see the boss was there, and they was
They weren't supposed to talk.
Wasn't supposed to talk, and they sang, and what they be singing, they be throwing out hints at one another to let you know, just keep on living. It's gonna be something good coming. Yeah. One of these days, bright and fair, gonna hit you on my wings and try the air. And they be letting you know that they wasn't gonna be in slavery always. They're gonna put on some wings and fly away. Put you on my wings and try the air.
With the Civil War over, westward expansion again picked up steam. It was the Gilded Age, the age of Mark Twain. The gold rush, robber barons, homesteaders, gunslingers, and the Ku Klux Klan. Out of this era, the great myths of the American West were born. Its most enduring symbol, the cowboy. The myths reflected in dime novels, Wild West shows, and later in movies and television made the cowboy the national symbol of rugged individualism, action, and strength. Cowboys were portrayed as the civilizing force, the backbone of the cattle industry, which made the western wilderness productive and profitable. The life of the working cowboy, yesterday as it is today, bears little resemblance to the romanticized versions. Cowboys are hired hands who work long, grueling hours for low wages. While Hollywood cowboys are almost always Anglo, nearly 1/3 of the working cowboys were either Mexican or black. America's mythic native son is actually the descendant of the Mexican vaquero, who developed the cowboy's basic skills, gear, and vocabulary. Farmers, railroad workers, and loggers are all part of the lore of the taming of the West. But it was the image of the cowboy that captured the public's imagination and came to represent the unlimited possibilities of the West.
It's 362,000 acres in the ranch, 550 sections. Oh, and I guess you could say it's about 400 square miles. Pretty good size ranch. It's something I just wanted to do and always loved to do, be around stock and horses.
Marion and Julia Treadaway grew up with the myths of the West. Today, these myths guide their lives.
It's hard work. You work from daylight till dark, but if you enjoy it, you don't mind.
There's so many jobs that you work at that you like the income, the money that you're making, but you don't like the job, and you stick with it. It's hard to find a job nowadays, well, it is for us till we came out here, that you enjoyed what you were doing. You know, you really enjoyed it.
As far as this old country, it's something that a lot of people, well, most everybody, you either like it or you don't like it. There's not much in between. Of course, of all the cactus and the prickly pear, and they say everything out here will either bite you or stick you. Well, this old country's part of the Chihuahua and Southwest Desert. But there's live water, there's springs. Usually where you see a big old cottonwood tree setting up somewhere, there's water pretty close. This is one of our favorite campgrounds. When we're over here on Roundup, we camp at this spring. Makes a good place to gather to. We've got some longhorn cattle penned in the pens here at the spring, waiting for a buyer selection. It's bad country to work cattle in. We work cattle just like we did 200 years ago. You round them up horseback, you move them from one place to the other horseback, from the bottom end to the top to the shipping pen. It's 5 days and 4 nights. You sleep out on the ground just like they did years ago. You know, and that's just part of it. It's a way of life with an attitude that this is what you want. This is where I belong.
The annual Texas Cowboy Reunion honors the region's pioneer cattlemen and women and pays tribute to the cowboy myth. The rodeo is a link to the days of the frontier. The ceremony and contest symbolize the conquest of the West. In the grand entry, riders spread out over the dirt floor arena as settlers spread out over the land more than a century ago. Rodeo events pit individuals against animals, man against nature, reinforcing the mythic West's reputation for adventure, danger, and individualism. While the image of the lone horseman on the range prevails, survival required cooperation, neighbor helping neighbor. This close kinship is reflected at the memorial service.
Now, the way we do this, if any of you folks want to say anything about these deceased, and you're not too emotional, we'd be glad to have you stand up and say something about it. The first time I ever saw J.N. Bradshaw, he had an old bay horse out there, the neck rope around him. I looked at J.N. and he wasn't my idea of a calf rope. I got fooled. He even won the saddle down here in the arena. I sure did like him.
And he roped right up to the very end. In fact, he bought him a new roping horse just 2 or 3 months before he died, maybe 4 or 5 months. But he was game right up to the last. He left a good name and a good family. We appreciate it.
She was a woman that lived by her word, did what she said. Many people didn't know her because she was so dedicated to the ranch that she only came to town about 2 or 3 times a year. The Stanford reunion was one of the occasions she did make.
She was a dandy. Behind every good man, you've got a good woman.
She was a wonderful woman.
Seems like those people at Aspermont have, just like you folks here, they have the old mesquite roots. They go down deep, and when it gets dry and it gets tough, they just get a little tougher with it.
I'd like to say it was a great privilege to have a friend like he was, and that you didn't have to know him very long to know which side he is on. He had a wide line between right and wrong.
He lived his life like a cowboy, like a man. He died like a man. He was a Christian. We'll rope him again someday. Cowboys don't cry.
The powerful image of the cowboys used to sell everything from products to politicians. Teddy Roosevelt rode into the White House on his exploits with the celebrated Rough Riders, his aggressive big stick foreign policy, and his attitude toward Native Americans were extensions of his cowboy ethic.
I don't go as far as to think that the only good Indians are dead Indians, but I believe that 9 out of the 10 are, and I should not inquire too closely into the case of the 10th.
In the 1980 and 84 presidential campaigns, Ronald Reagan tied his conservative politics to the mythic cowboy ideals of self-reliance and individualism. One campaign memo quoted by Newsweek magazine read, "Leave Mondale in a position where a vote against Reagan is in some subliminal sense a vote against a mythic America.
The era of the frontier cowboy lasted less than 30 years. By the turn of the century, the open range had been fenced and the great cattle drives had ended. The Industrial Revolution had come to the West. Big-time farming became profitable.
In the Rio Grande Valley, landowners employed thousands of Mexicans to clear the dense brush and turn grazing land into rich, irrigated fields. By 1920, a rigid class structure existed. The average Anglo who worked the land earned $3,750 a year, while the average Mexican made only $500. Despite the discrimination, Mexicans continued to migrate north, many fleeing the turmoil of the Mexican Revolution. In Mexico, land reform was the major issue. In 1910, 97% of the rural families owned no land. Many were enslaved by debt. Revolutionary leader Emiliano Zapata sounded the peasants' battle cry, Tierra y Libertad, land and liberty. The land, Zapata proclaimed, belongs to those who work it.
The Mexican Revolution, I think what we feel still from it, or what left in us, in our parents, in our hearts, is that it was a struggle for control of the land. The Mexican Revolution and the Union type of organizing that we're doing is towards the same goal. As a farm worker myself, being a farm worker until the age of 18, and then as my father, who's also a farm worker, I know the closeness and the appreciation that that farm workers feel for the land. They care for it through good times and bad times. You know, it's cold, it rains, it's muddy. It's a very special feeling that maybe being Mexican American, and part of our Indian heritage that goes into these strong feelings for the land. They're out there and they're working every day and they cultivate it and they take care of it. In that sense, we feel like farm workers are the true owners of that land. But then at the same time, sort of sad because you put in so many months of work into it, and then some families at the end of that long period of time go home and don't have enough, you know, to feed their families. And over the years, you just keep thinking about that and you say, well, there's something not quite right here. And through the union, we're just saying it's about time that we also in the fields have some justice, and that the love we put into the land and what it produces be shared on a more equal basis. In all our Mexican corridos, you know, have a lot of heart, you know, a lot of love, and so the music is just another way of just telling the story, telling the struggle.
In San Antonio, Mexican Americans celebrate their myths in a striking and traditional fashion. The great Mexican artist Jose Clemente Orozco once said that of all painting, mural painting is the least selfish, as it cannot be hidden for the benefit of a privileged few. It is for the people. It is for all. On the west side of San Antonio, the Mexican-American tenants of these public housing projects do not own the land on which they live, but they've created a sense of community and ownership through the murals of their history, culture, and myths.
The struggle over land during the bitter times that followed the Civil War were powerful forces in shaping the black culture's myths about whites. An ex-slave named Anderson Willis bought this farmland near Fairfield during the late 1860s.
However, before he died, Anderson Willis had lost most of this land. His descendants claimed that it was taken from him by white landowners and local officials through systematic fraud.
Chavis Willis, Anderson's grandson, has bought back some of the old farm.
Old Dodge. How old is this truck?
Well, it's a 49.
49 Dodge. He and other members of the family have filed suit to reclaim the rest of the land. Land lost during a time when the ex-slave was forbidden to enter the courthouse to check records and deeds.
Grandpa Anderson, he told us what to do. He said, y'all hold on to what you got. Cause the Blue Eyes is going to try to get it from y'all.
To the family, Anderson Willis's struggle and theirs is symbolic of the black culture's determination to survive and overcome. The attitudes of Chavis, his niece Jeanette Atkins, and many blacks living in East Texas are shaped by myths surrounding incidents of racial violence, threats, and intimidation.
We just like in here, just like a rabbit out here munching Uncle Greyhound. Now, if one jump you up and doesn't knock you up, doesn't got you. And they tear you half in two. That's the way we was here. See, I'm being seen some of this done to my race. You see, I'm here seeing this.
My father, he died as he was bedridden for about 6 years, and he would always tell us, don't give it up. Get a lawyer to take it to court, and so you will get the land back. And it just instilled in us that we couldn't afford to give it up. It is all the roots we have. This is all we know about the Willis family is Freestone County. If we could have done something years ago, we would have. Even my father, in his lifetime, he would have. If Anderson Willis, I'm sure when he bought the land, he bought it for him and his family. He would not have it taken if he could have done something about it. But he could not do any more than what he did, was to try to remain alive. And this is where we are today. This is the reason that Anderson Willis descendants have gotten themselves together as a group of people determined, and may I say that the third time we are determined to get this land back.
Yeah.
The struggle between Anglos and Indians for territory in Texas was rationalized by the white man's myth of manifest destiny, a myth that made land hunger noble. The Indians and the buffalo were seen as barriers to progress. The great herds of bison threatened agriculture and livestock and endangered railroad tracks and trains. The U.S. cavalry and Anglo settlers pushed the Texas Indians off their hunting grounds and slaughtered the buffalo, the source of the Plains tribe's way of life. In 1873 alone, it's estimated that 5 million of the animals were slain. The stench of their rotting flesh filled the air, and the plains became littered with their bones. The Comanches and the Kiowas, the great warriors of the South Plains, fought to protect their land, giving rise to Anglo myths of Indians as bloodthirsty savages. General Philip Sheridan, source of the phrase, "the only good Indian is a dead Indian," testified against the bill before the Texas legislature to protect the buffalo.
For the sake of lasting peace, let them kill, skin, and sell until they have exterminated the buffalo. Then your prairies will be covered with speckled cattle and the festive cowboy who follows the hunter as the second forerunner of civilization.
Ready? Fire!
Anglos celebrate their history and success in settling the West with romantic recreations of life at a fort in Indian country. The Indian Wars and slaughter of the buffalo were part of the legendary winning of the West.
It's not real sharp. And the reason what they did when they got into the hacking end of it, the idea was you could not cut anybody with a sword. Yes. You do not slice people up with these things. You break bones with it and you poke holes in them with a sword. That's what a sword's for.
Attention, shoulder, arms. Fire by company, ready.
History in general is taught from the point of view of the victors.
Aim.
How the West was lost is recorded in the words of Indians, who felt that they spoke not only for themselves, but on behalf of the earth.
They bait hal. Hagya tonga dom anga ik a. A long time ago, this land belonged to our grandfathers.
Where I was born, upon the prairie, the wind blew free, and there was nothing to break the light of the sun.
But when I go up to the river, I see camps of soldiers on its banks. These soldiers cut down my timber. They kill my buffalo. And when I see that, my heart feels like bursting.
The white man has the country which we loved, and we only wish to wander on the prairie until we die.
Here at Paladuro Canyon, near Amarillo, the Comanches and the Kiowas fought their final battle to hold on to their plains culture. During the winter of 1874-75, soldiers from New Mexico, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas converged on this last stronghold. 10 years after the Civil War, the free tribes of the Texas Plains and the buffalo were vanquished. But the myths and values of Native Americans live on in the conservation movement. Out here in West Texas, the Rio Grande curves around the ruggedly beautiful country of the Big Bend National Park. This park was established after a 13-year campaign of lobbying and fundraising by Texans determined to save this remnant of the frontier. A letter written by conservationist and Pulitzer Prize-winning novelist Wallace Stegner reflects the spiritual legacy of the American Indian.
Something will have gone out of us as a people if we ever let the remaining wilderness be destroyed, so that never again can we have the chance to see ourselves single, separate, vertical and individual in the world, part of the environment of trees and rocks and soil, part of the natural world and competent to belong in it. Americans still have that chance more than many peoples. For while we were demonstrating ourselves the most efficient and ruthless environment busters in history, and slashing and burning and cutting our way through the wilderness continent, the wilderness was working on us. It remains in us as surely as Indian names remain on the land. If the abstract dream of human liberty and human dignity became, in America, something more than an abstract dream, mark it down, at least partially, to the fact that we were in subtle ways subdued by what we conquered.
Big Bend still bears the scars of past abuse. Overgrazing before the creation of the park turned these grasslands into a wasteland. The myth of Texas' unlimited resources has led to the wasteful and destructive use of the land. The pro-growth values of the Texas frontier still guide the state's development today. But how we use our land and natural resources to meet the needs of Texas' growing population has become a major political battle. Nowhere is the conflict over growth more intense than in Austin, noted for its natural beauty, clean lakes, green belts, and open spaces. Austin is seen as a refuge from the mythical urban ills of Houston and the materialism of Dallas. Its image as a healthy, pleasant, laid-back town is directly tied to its environment. Barton Springs is a symbol for many of the quality of life for which Austin is famous. Here, the icy clear waters of the Edwards Aquifer bubble up through the ground. A haven for Comanches before the city was founded, an oasis for Austinites today. Barton's has great meaning to me personally. It has had most of my life, because ever since I was a little boy, almost, well over a half a century ago, to be truthful about it, our family's been coming out here. A long time ago, we'd camp up there all summer long, like a lot of Austin families did. Barton Springs was a way of life to all of us. But Austin is also one of the fastest growing boom towns in the nation. Its growth is fueled by the successful courting of the high-tech electronics industries and the exploding real estate market. The irony is, the very qualities used to lure new growth to Austin may be the qualities growth destroys. The myth of prosperity through growth has run smack into the myth of the value of preservation, and the conflict is creating new folklore.
It's breaking my heartstrings, what's coming down Barton Springs, making my tongue speak, what's planned for Barton Creek, filling the stream we know with development overflow.
Bill Oliver carries on the long tradition of balladeers whose songs reflect the values and issues of the times.
We are tossing the best of South Austin to a few residential sharks. It makes my head swim the direction we're going in. Painting the green belt black with a sweep of the moped, spilling right through our hands. It's the best of the master plan, and it makes my heart sing the beauty of Barton Springs. So lucky to have so near such a delicate ecosphere, but it's spilling right through our hands like the spirit of the master plan, changing the town we know to a city of grow, grow, grow.
Houston was once the epitome of the modern boomtown myth, with all its vitality and seemingly boundless opportunities. But today, it's often cited as an example of the growth and prosperity myth gone awry. That myth now knocks on the doors of the residents of the 4th Ward, home of the oldest black community in Houston. The message, get out of the way. Originally called Freedman's Town because it was settled by farmer slaves, the community sits on prime real estate, sandwiched between downtown and affluent River Oaks. Most of the land now belongs to absentee landlords and speculators. Since both the city and the developers agree that the land should be put to a more profitable use, they are working together on a public-private partnership to clear the way for high-rise office buildings and condominiums.
It'll happen in one of two ways. Either it'll happen in a haphazard fashion, with the residents of the area being displaced a few at a time, or the city can get involved in the redevelopment, and we can assure that the needs of the residents are going to be taken care of. It is inevitable because the value of land, the assemblage of land, is such that it cannot be used for any other purpose. We're dealing with land now that is being priced in the range of $20 per square foot. That means that a shotgun house now sitting on a lot in that area, which is roughly 40 by 60 feet, is sitting on a lot that is worth approaching $100,000. And it is not reasonable to assume that the economics will permit that type of continued use of land.
It took the sweat, blood, and tears of freed slaves to settle this area, and we want to preserve it.
Gladys House is president of the Freedmanstown Association, a neighborhood group founded upon the myth that a community has a value of its own.
We're still citizens of the United States of America. We're still citizens of Houston, Texas, and we're still residents of Freedmanstown, and we're taxpayers. So, I mean, are you saying that, look, sure, you're taxpayers, but still there's a double standard here. You all are just too poor to reside here. And I think it's unfortunate to tell a human being that land is much more valuable than his or her life. And especially after all of the great contributions they've made to the growth of Houston.
The modern urban blues tradition was born of hard times and a rural past. Today, the blues continue to reflect the experiences, frustrations, hopes, and the myths of the black community.
And one more thing I want to tell you. If I should ever get out of this hole I'm in, I'll never get back in this hole again. Ain't got a dime, ain't got a friend.
Sometimes you have people that come out of this environment and they get a little above this, you know. But if they come to a blues place where someone's singing the blues, their mind flashback on things that have happened to you. And it's something that you'll experience, you never forget.
That I could call my own. Ain't got a dime, ain't got a friend. If I should ever get out of this hole, Mr. Milton say,
we're born with blues because our parents and their parents, before them, all down the line, was born right into it.
Help me see.
Like my mother and father, they used to talk to me about the way it was in East Texas and Mississippi when they were coming up. My mother's from Mississippi and my father's from East Texas. So I tell you, between those two right there, man, that's enough to give anybody the blues. Yeah, I know that. So it's a thing, man. Like it's in the soul.
A lot of people never experienced it the way I've experienced it, but they experienced it in a different way. And it still relates to the same thing. They have the blues.
Ain't got a friend. Yeah, baby. If I should ever get out of this hole, yeah, baby. Thank you.
This intertribal powwow in Grand Prairie, just outside Dallas, is the largest in Texas. Every fall, members of more than 30 different tribes come together to socialize and share traditions.
The drum itself is kind of got a little magic in it where, you know, it brings out the dancing in the people and it brings the people together, and it's really, I guess, a sacred item.
Kiowa Indian, Hilton Queeton, and many other urban Native Americans find themselves a part of the melting pot myth. These regional dances and celebrations are important ways of preserving Indian myths.
We're a people that is kind of divided between, you know, an old life and a new life, and we live in the urban areas. We work, we hold jobs just like everyone else. We have a lot of professional Indians, you know, doctors, lawyers, you know. We're just ordinary Americans in that respect, but we still have our cultural ties. We still believe in, you know, our Indian ways. We still have our songs and our stories and our legends, and we have our values that we carry forward. Our songs really are a tribute to our lives, okay? Our honor, our courage, our wild ponies and the buffalo. We have the eagle dance, which is all a tribute to them.
Today, these native peoples and their neighbors who hail from more than 30 different cultural groups are shaping Texas' future. It has been projected that Texas will have more than 20 million people by the year 2000, second only to California. And as greater numbers of Asians, Central Americans, and others make Texas home, new myths become part of the Texas tradition.
A failure to understand the roots of our own myths and those of others can lead to fear, conflict, and intolerance. Myths are mighty forces in our lives. But after all, we're the ones who create them, keep them alive. And so it is we, the people, who have the final say over what become the legacies of our land.
This program is made possible in part by a grant from the Texas Committee for the Humanities, a state program of the National Endowment for the Humanities, and by the subscribers to KERA Dallas-Fort Worth.